we just finished up the contest and had what was it, 201 mixes submitted for this thing. So Eli hired 201 mixing engineers.
I did.
All of them better than mine, I think.
It takes 200 people to beat your mix. That's what they're saying.
I had to get 200 other people to realize my mix was okay.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. So I'll give everybody the rundown on what we're going to do today. So it's basically we're going to talk about the mixing contest a little bit, and then talk about the whole start to finish series that just wrapped up. All the videos are out now and available to watch on Puremix. And then we're going to get to some questions. And for anybody watching on Facebook or YouTube, if you head over to Puremix and hit the live event page, you can join our Crowdcast room, and we're accepting questions from there for both Matt and Eli here. So it's pretty cool over there. You can upvote each other's questions, and the questions with the most votes get asked. So head over to Crowdcast and enter those questions in. So to start off, we had, like I said, 201 mixes submitted, and we have some prizes for people, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about how we work the contest process here. So with 201 mixes, Matt and Eli are a little bit busy doing some things.
Was a lot.
So we always over at Puremix, we whittle them down to about the top 10, and then we submitted it to both of these guys to kind of go through those and pick 3 top winners. And we're going to have some prizes for those guys, which is going to be, I have over here, a test pressing of Eli's latest singles that were shot during the series, during the start to finish series. So these are one and onlys. I don't think Matt even has one of these.
Nope.
Wait, there we go. So these are the actual test pressings of the 7-inch. It's pretty cool. So we got 3 of those, and then some Puremix merchandise. Do you have the release copy, Eli?
I do. So we pressed a very small run of these 345s.
Look at that.
See that? Pressed on the original Sam Phillips Studio acetate label.
Come on.
And I think it's possible that it's sold out, but if it's not, you can get them on my website, which is elipaperboyread.com, and go to the store link, and I think they're $10 or something like that. But there's a few left. I'm being told that they're
nice.
there are
just
a few copies left. So we pressed a very small, limited run, and you can listen to the songs that are available on all the streaming services now too, Spotify and the like.
Super cool. So let's get into the mixing contest stuff. So from the top 10, you guys whittled it down to 3.
We did.
Yeah, and I have those names over here.
I'll jump in for a second, Mark, and say, I all the top 10 all were really good.
Really good.
I loved all of them, and then Eli and I didn't speak before we sent each other our top 4, and we were both had, I think, 3 of the same. So I love being on the same page with the artiste. That's a good thing.
No, it was really impressive to hear. People had a lot of really interesting panning ideas, a lot of just out of the box kind of, different ways of looking at it, but all really good and all sound. I mean, it just goes to show that, you can mix a song 1,000 different ways and it'll be still really good no matter what.
There's an interesting thing too. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but this is a first for me or not necessarily a first, but a rare thing where it's something, I've already tracked and mixed, and then hearing other people mix it and listening to those. And it was a thing where, like, at first of the top 10, I would listen to all the way intro through the first chorus of the top 10. And there's something that just kind of naturally happened where on the mixes that we ended up choosing, I wouldn't want to hit stop yet. Like, I was invested in the song, even though I just heard it 9 times before or something. It was that, like you guys put so good in the rules, Mark. It's not who's louder or who's closest to the original mix. It's a feel thing. And even for me, like, knowing that song inside and out, there was still a couple of those mixes where it was like, Oh yeah, well shit, we're in course 2 and I didn't hit stop yet. Like I'm in this one, so
Right.
well I made it 3 minutes without cussing, so I'm sorry.
Amazing.
I felt the same way, that it was like once you get into the mix, and like if it starts to feel good, you don't want to turn it off. It's like that's the point, right? You don't want to. You're not noticing the mixing anymore.
Right. Yeah, and Matt, kind of as producer too, if you had kind of been in that shoe of like shipping it off to have somebody else mix it and get it back, that's a really good note about, am I invested past the first chorus? And
it's a really good note, and it also means that my job is on a thin. My mixing job is on a thin line now. There's 200 of you guys. They're going to come for me. I'm scared.
They all know where you work too.
That's true.
Yeah, I work.
Yeah.
Eli's got their emails now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just reach out. Exactly. Now I'm gonna crowdsource all my mixes from now on. I can get mixes for free, man. I don't need you anymore.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
And we're done.
It's awesome. Nice. Well, yeah. So we could announce the top 3 of them here. Did you guys have one of the top 3 that stood out to you more than the others, or did you kind of feel like they were all on the same level?
I'll let you.
I definitely think they're all on the same level. I think we chose one that just. I think it's like that thing again. I couldn't point out to you a specific thing of why this one was better than that one, or that one just was a feel thing. You just went on a ride with it, And I think Eli and we mentioned this earlier before the live cast, that I think the main issue I think a lot of people had, and this is probably of working in a home studio or untreated spaces, is the low end.
Yep.
If you're not in a treated environment, sometimes the low end, you start EQing and adding it when you're not hearing what it's doing and stuff. So that really goes to more of the people who didn't make the top 3. There was some low end stuff where Leroy's bass would get lost, or it was just kind of muddy, woofy. But yeah, the top 3, all 3 of those, I had to go back, and Eli too, I think, and really listen a bunch of times, and it was hard to. You should give them all the top prize, Mark.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody actually does get the same top prize. For this one. Works out well.
Let's break the test pressing in half. Or no,
yeah.
Give them all.
Everybody gets a shard.
Yeah.
No, I was. It's true. It was the low end thing was just like, especially from a stylistic point of view, I was just like, if I put the mix on it and I felt like the way that the kick and the bass were not balanced in the right way, I couldn't get past it. So that was hard for me as just from a listening perspective. There's some things that I'm used to about the kind of records that I like, and especially like you have a bass player like Leroy Hodges, who's so influential and legendary. It's hard. You want to be able to make sure that there's some definition there and not basically get out of his way.
Yeah, that kind of style of the bass guitar is more the low end,
right? Where
in most modern stuff, the kick is the low end. And I'd say the other thing I thought was interesting is we didn't give them the chamber, so they're using a lot of digital reverbs. I'm guessing, and the thing I've experienced with digital reverbs are you almost have to use more of it to hear it.
Sure.
Where the chamber and I know I slathered it in chamber, but you can use less of it.
That echo chamber, man.
You can use less of it and feel it. And I noticed on some of the ones that weren't top 3 that the reverb, they did a good job of kind of getting close to it, but because it's that digital verb, it doesn't have that 3D thing where you have to turn it more, and it was maybe brighter than the chamber, so it was kind of getting in the way of the vocal tone and stuff like that.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that the chamber Matt's talking about is the chamber at the famous Sam Phillips recording where everything was recorded, and that thing definitely sounded amazing. One thing I was like really surprised by was when you were out in the hallway while things were tracking or while you were mixing, you just heard that chamber blaring down the hallway. I don't think I knew prior to that just how loud it gets inside of a chamber.
Well, it's funny. When I first came to the studio, the chamber was not in use at the time. They had put there's a pinball machine and phone books. I don't know why they say phone books, but it was phone books. Because in the 80s, everyone got into the digital reverbs and stuff, and we cleared out. Luckily, all the scaffolding, the plaster, all that was still there, so it was all it just needed to be was empty again. But they had a really small speaker in there, and there is something about a smaller speaker in a bigger chamber that's cool too. And it's sometimes like a plate. Sometimes you want it saturate the coming out of the speaker, the chamber, or the return, and you get a little more excitement out of the reverb. And sometimes you don't want that. You want it to be soft and smooth and let more of the low end develop and stuff. So there are times when you want to blow the chamber up and you don't want to.
Right.
But yeah, because I'm in the control room, I don't hear how loud it's in the chamber, but it is funny. You'll hear Eli through the whole building going.
Or the masqueraders. That was one of my favorite things of tracking, was just like going out in the hallway and hearing the masqueraders being pumped through the chamber, and just to stand there at the door and listen to that was something special.
Yeah. That was crazy. Definitely going to remember that. So I have a bunch of questions for you guys, just about the whole process and your history together. You guys made a record together before we did that shoot, and so tons of stories to get to. Let's announce the top 3 winners for this thing, and we'll get to it. So,
you have them, Rocker?
I do. I have them. So the top 3 are DM Stubbs, Darth Vader, who I don't know if we actually heard his mix. He just is on there because his name's Darth Vader. And Clown, KLWN. You were also in the top 3, and that's actually, he's a returning top tier guy. So
nice.
He ends up on these quite a bit. So we got to send Eli his number. Cool. So congratulations, guys. Congratulations to everybody that was in it. We also say this a lot whenever we do these wrap up things, but a lot of the point of these mixing competitions, it's, the prizes are awesome, and it's great that we have that, and it kind of like gives you something to aim for. But the whole act of like getting tracks like this recorded at a place like Sam Phillips by Matt Ross-Spang with talent like Eli and the Hodges brothers and the Masqueraders, Ken Coomer, all of that. It's just incredible to be able to get that caliber of stuff and load it up. And this is also a completely different genre than we've had on the platform before for mixing contests. So it's just great practice, and anybody who went after it, great job, and good job completing the mixes. So
yeah, absolutely.
Very fun. So thanks, everybody. Pretty cool. Yeah. So on to some question stuff. That first record that you guys made together, how did you guys, meet each other and get in contact and all that? And what was the process like leading up to going into the studio?
I had been, this was the second record that I had made with my label who I'm still with, Yep Rock. And we did a little bit of outreach, and Matt just kind of raised his hand. We didn't know each other, and he had been a fan, I guess, going back to earlier records of mine, and it was kind of, there's no magic really to that story, just like sometimes that's how producers get picked, and we spoke on the phone a bunch, and really, clicked immediately, and obviously the idea of going to make a record in Memphis with at Sam Phillips appealed to me, yeah. as it might. I don't know. You want to say?
Yeah, I'd always been a big fan of Eli, so we got on the phone and talked, and it was love at first sight.
It was.
We're both fans of a lot of the same stuff, so it was so easy to communicate, because I feel like, I think the soul genre is one of the genres that everyone's a fan of. I don't think there's anyone out there that's like, I don't like soul music. Right. But they may have a surface level of it where it's strictly Otis Redding, or Al Green or something, where Eli and I can geek out over Tyrone Davis or somebody, and we have a lot of the same heroes and stuff. So it was immediately like, like we both read the same book, we like the same cult movie or something, and so that was really fun. And we both wanted to do something different, I think, and then so we talked on the phone. He sent the songs, and it was just I was super excited because I've always been a fan of his, and to hear the new songs and stuff was really cool.
Nice. Yeah. Did you guys do any pre-production stuff?
We did a lot of just a lot of discussion.
Just narrowing down songs, really.
I had a lot of demos. I had something like 30 songs to pick from, which is kind of the way I like to do it when it comes to making records like that. And then I brought a couple of my guys down from New York and kind of paired with a couple of with Ken playing drums. I had my my bass player and my organ player on that stuff, and that was just to kind of hedge my bets a little bit, and also just to give me a little bit more security. And then we were able to get the masqueraders in to sing backgrounds and get some of the great Memphis horn guys, the same guys that we had on the session we did.
And Eli had worked with those horn guys before and knew them from the scene and stuff. So it wasn't he wasn't coming in as cold as as you can. He knew a lot of the guys and stuff. So
I mean, I remember with the first day we were supposed to track. I was supposed to get in a day before, and there was a big snowstorm in New York City, and all of our flights got canceled. And so we ended up we were supposed to get in like 1 o'clock or noon on a Monday, and I ended up not getting to the studio until like 3 or 4 on Tuesday, and we still ended up getting 2 or 3 rhythm tracks done that day because everything sounded there wasn't a lot of. It was the same kind of way that we did the session for you guys. It was just there wasn't a lot of futzing around. It's like Matt knows the kind of sounds that he can get out of that room. And the players, and we just let everybody do what they were supposed to do, and it worked, Yeah.
Well, I think we tracked the whole record in what was it, 2 days because of the 3 days?
3. I think we did all the rhythm tracks in 3 days.
Yeah.
And then we did all the tracking in.
I think we did 3 days of that, and then 2 days of horns and
overdubs. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something like that.
The Masqueraders did 15 songs in 1 day. It was awesome.
Yeah, something crazy.
Jeez.
And the horn guys did all their songs in a day.
Yeah.
It was we're gonna have take our time. We got 4 days to track 15 songs. No storm happens. We have 2.5 days, and it was one of the best things that ever happened because we all had this it's almost better that way.
It was great. I mean, it was we all and Ken came from Nashville and just we all just kind of holed up and sometimes it's we didn't have anything else to do. We were all either we were all nobody had to get home or anything. We just were committed to getting it all done at the time.
Yeah,
and that's what was extra great about this Puremix, Mark, was usually. I make a record with Eli, and then Eli goes back to New York, and then we still talk, and text, but we don't really get to see each other till maybe he plays Memphis again or whatever, another record or whatever. So it was so great to have everybody back.
Right. That was really exciting to just be able to it wasn't that long after, and we got to come back and do it all again, and even have it be even more special because then we get the Hodges involved, and it was Yeah, it was quite a session for sure.
It was a good reunion.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Did you stick around to mix, Eli?
I did. Yeah, we mixed. We mixed the record together. I mean, I think there maybe have been a couple of songs we didn't finish mixing on my album, and then I stuck around to mix these songs too. Although I fell asleep some of the time.
Well, it was late. We mixed Eli's record in 2 days.
Yeah,
Eli did all the fades, and then there was maybe 2 songs we didn't get to, and then I did those, and we went back. We did just minor tweaks over the phone.
Yeah.
And because you guys saw with this one, we kind of made all the decisions as we went, so there wasn't a heck of a lot to do. And I will say for all the people out there that we finished. The Puremix guys are soldiers because we did 2 days, and on the last day we finished the final mix at 4 a.m. I'll never forget.
Right.
And then we
really early.
we weren't mixing that long, but there's a lot that goes into these shoots, and so stop and talking and stuff. And so, and then I think Fab had a 6 o'clock flight, so these guys all hustled and worked their butts off. And
that was crazy.
I always wanted to show the computer clock screen so people could see when we were printing it. So like 4:20 in the morning.
Right. That was crazy. Yeah. Everybody's troopers. Yeah. Andrew had to drive Fab over to the airport, and he came back. I think he got back to our Airbnb at like 5:30 in the morning, and that was fun.
Man.
It was worth it though. What an incredible shoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the speed that you're talking about though. It's funny because you're like, oh, we'll be fine. We have 4 days to track 15 songs. Like that's not the phrase that comes out of most people's mouth. So it really goes to show though, like that workflow, and which is so cool, like seeing in those videos, even with you being slowed down by cameras and us asking you to explain stuff, just like how fast you guys work. That was crazy.
I mean, it's just Matt and I, that's one of the reasons we got along so well, is because I like to work quickly. I want to make sure that the songs don't lose, the feeling by having to stop and wait or, reset things or whatever. It's the most important thing is to just be like, okay, we're going to strike while the iron's hot. Everybody's like, get out there, half the time the band doesn't know the song. I mean, Charles and Leroy didn't know any of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there trying to teach. They learn the tunes, and then while they're learning the tunes, Matt's getting set up and getting sounds. And by the time they know the tunes, we're ready to cut. So it's like it works out perfectly.
Yeah. You guys nailed it in 2-3 takes.
Yeah. That was another great thing for me with working with Eli too, because you don't want to overthink anything, and I never want the engineering side to get in the way. Like Eli's ready to sing, but I want to hear this mic pre or this blah 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 like that. I'm not that at all. It should be ready to rock. At the same time, I don't want to. Every song we don't record the same, So while Eli's showing him, we're switching out a drum or this or that, but you got to do it fast and make decisions. And then very rarely do you ever regret it, in my opinion. I wish we had, done this.
No, I think that's the thing about it is like you capturing a great performance is so much more important than, potentially minute differences in character of the sound. Like as long as you're at a generally, high level of quality, everything's going to be okay in the end,
Yeah. If we all go on YouTube and we all watch like whatever our favorite artist is on Letterman or on Woodstock or at Bonnaroo, they're singing into a 58 or a 635. Elvis sings into a RE15 live, and it sounds amazing, So he didn't go back and re-sing it through a Telefunken. He did it, and it sounds great.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of the other thing too. Like, even though we have some long videos of you mixing those songs, like when you pull up the faders, it sounds like the record because you did that on the way in. It wasn't waiting for it for later. And
I will say, listening back to everyone else's mixes, because I'm in the middle of mixing a record right now that I didn't record, and not that what I'm about to say is because I didn't record it. I don't want to sound pompous, but Eli wrote this amazing song and had this amazing arrangement. And then by having the masqueraders and the horns, the song, you can put the faders at 0. The chorus gets big. The way Charles ramps up on the organ, the way Eli sings, even if the faders don't move and it's a static mix, you still go on this emotional roller coaster with that song. And that's what I hope everyone who got to mix it realized, was how much you're already set up to win when the arrangement is like that and the song's like that, instead of like they didn't really make a big chorus, so now I got to try and make the guitars sound bigger or the vocal sound bigger or this or that. And I think that was a really looking back on it now, how great it was to get that in there where people can see, like, with a great arrangement, a great song, and a great performance, you really just got to stay out of the way almost on the engineering side.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's so many lessons in there just about, you didn't need 20 people in the room to make the production happen, and it went down the way that it was supposed to be. Super cool. Well, awesome. So what is next for you, Eli? What are you up to?
I am about to record my next album. Unfortunately, not with Matt this time, as much as I love you, buddy.
It's with Darth Vader.
Yeah, exactly. You're
guys.
me, man. It's actually tough because I would love to come back to Memphis, but the way things are with COVID would be, whatever. But I'm gonna do it with most of the guys in my touring band. And at my friend's studio here in Brooklyn. And this next Eli Paperboy Reed album is going to be something I've been dreaming of for more than a decade, which is to do a soul tribute to Merle Haggard. So I'm doing all
It'd be awesome
kind of Eli Paperboy Reed arrangements and reimaginings of Merle Haggard songs. For those who don't know, Merle Haggard is a wonderful, incredible West Coast country singer, one of my favorite country singers of all time, and an incredible songwriter. So I'm excited to take his songs and kind of rework them. So that's going to be the next record. I have actually a Christmas single, if you can believe it, coming out on November 30th. So I ended up doing a fair bit of stuff around New York during the pandemic, which is nice. I was able to get some work done. So yeah, Christmas singles coming out. I have my next album, which I'm going to start recording in 2 weeks. And then I'm going to produce a new album on my proteges, the Harlem Gospel Travelers, who are my gospel group that I helped co-found and produce their records. Their new album is going to get recorded early in 21 that I'm going to produce. And Matt and I are hopefully next year going to make a record on the Masqueraders. Fingers crossed, everybody cross your fingers, because we feel that they deserve, more than deserve, to get a new full length under their belts before it's too late. Yeah, so I've got some irons in the fire for sure.
Amazing. Yeah, awesome. Matt, you've got some plans.
Yeah, I've been busier mixing than it's been, this COVID thing is crazy, and
Elvis beyond
the global pandemic and the social injustices and the political environment, I've been super busy. So it's one of those weird things where it's incredibly hard to concentrate on a mix when so much is going on in the world, but it's also good to have that thing and not be, at home. Right. But yeah, mixing, I'm finishing up a couple records I did earlier in the year that we're going to add strings and stuff too. So sometimes that stuff takes longer to get done. I'm working on a box set. I can't talk fully about it, but it involves the king of rock and roll,
Nice.
which is always fun. And I am building a studio currently in Memphis, Tennessee. I've been working on for a long time, and haven't talked too much about it, but it's out there in the open now. So hey,
yeah,
super psyched about that.
It might be a future Puremix video on here.
We're gonna have to do that. Yeah.
You guys should have filmed the build out, and then Matt could have, gotten a little bit of extra cash in there for his studio.
Yep.
If you want to that's how I lost all my hair, was trying to build a studio in a pandemic. So
I'll do it.
Brilliant idea, everybody.
Yeah. We need to just send you some GoPros and have you just set them up, and we'll do like the year-long process of building a studio in a time lapse.
Yeah.
It'll take 4 months to watch, but you can see the whole thing.
It seemed like how Barack went in as president looking young and then came out just looking haggard. That's
pretty much how it's going to be.
Nice. Well, cool. Amazing. Yeah, so let me check out some things here. I'm gonna check in on our Facebook crew and YouTube, see if any questions are popping up in those chat rooms. If you guys got any questions, pop them into our Crowdcast link there, or in the chat rooms. And
I see somebody asked when the song is going to be released. It is out. I mentioned at the beginning, you can buy the 45, or you can check out both songs. We cut 2 songs that day, even though we only did the mixing contest for 1. Both songs are available on all the digital streaming services if you search for Eli Paperboy Reed.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Awesome. All right, just waiting to see if we get anybody in here. Very nice. Matt, how big's that the new spot going to be?
Roughly, it's 3,000 square feet. The tracking room is about 32 by 23 feet, but it's a little cockeyed would be, I think, the technical term. And then
Good.
the control room is actually, it's going to be a really nice size control room. When I was at Sun Studio for 11 years, and that control room was maybe 12 by 10 feet, and the 7-foot control room, if you guys can't tell from the shoot, but it's very small too. So this control room is going to be somewhat bigger. I think it's about 23 by 20. And there's a hallway which will double as a chamber. There's another echo chamber we're going to build because you guys know I love chambers, and a little office lounge, and then a little plate room, tech shop, and tape closet. So it's really cool. It's in an old Sears distribution center called Crosstown in Memphis, and there's these columns. Every 17 feet is a 3-foot thick concrete column, and so I love, as you guys can tell, I love limitations and stuff. So having to navigate acoustic space around those columns was like nerve-wracking at first, but then we really made it a part of the thing, and it became really.
I think that's really cool.
And let me stress that I'm using Stephen Durr of Stephen Durr Designs, who's not only a great human being but a fantastic acoustician, and he maintains Fame Studios and Sears Sound, and has done a lot of great studios. He worked with one of my heroes, Chips Moman, and he gets the funkiness that I love so much about Memphis studios. None of them had a big, besides a few of them, none of them really had a big budget or like specific acoustic things. They went in there with burlap and an old movie theater or an old shotgun building, and they made it work on paper. The acoustics are probably terrible, but when you get in there, it sounds incredible. And that's what I was kind of shooting for. I didn't want a doctor's office. I didn't want a sharper image. I didn't want the technical, what's going to sound good. I want what feels good. So it's been a great learning experience for me, and really exciting to see it come together.
Yeah, I bet. Well, what goes into building a chamber?
A lot of luck would be what I would say. And we have a paper that Stephen and Matt. There's a Matt Schlachter at it's Stephen Durr and Matt Schlachter, and I brought them by and showed them there's 3 chambers at Phillips. 2 of them you have to crawl to, but the big one that you saw, Mark, and heard in the hallway is the really special one. And I brought them down so they could see it. I by no means wanted to copy it, because it needs to be its own sound. But they saw that, and then of course they've seen tons of chambers too. And a lot of people attack a chamber by just putting a concrete square, rectangle. But Sam attacked his differently, and so we kind of attacked ours differently from that. But basically, it's a lot of concrete, plaster, and scaffolding. And once you get in there and do all that, then you can augment it. Hopefully you've got it right where there's not a lot of frequency buildup, and then you can augment if you need to. You can always put more stuff in there to shorten it. It's hard. You can't make it longer unless you do some special paint and stuff. But
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of, chambers are really, they were everywhere in the 60s, and they're not made so much anymore. And I feel like that was kind of a lost art. I mean, very few people. I mean, you can read a paper. There's papers on chambers. There's theories on stuff. But those guys knew stuff we didn't know, and they just did some amazing stuff that hopefully will happen in my space. You have to sacrifice the chicken.
You told me that the guy who designed the Phillips chambers, it was like he would like did all the different chambers around Memphis or something like that.
Yeah, I have a few theories about the Phillips chamber. So Sam Phillips built the studio in 57. There was a guy in town named Bill Cantrell. And Bill supposedly was big, helped the studios at Royal, at Stax, at American. And some people mention that he was good with chambers. I also assume Sam Phillips, being the acoustician he was, had heavy on the chamber. And then Sam was also really good friends with Bill Putnam. And Putnam kind of, starred chambers too. And the B room at Phillips, which I'm in now, which is where we mixed it, this room kind of reminds me a lot of one of the rooms that Putnam designed that Pet Sounds was recorded in. So I don't know if those guys were all talking and they, shared some secrets with each other or what. Because that Phillips A chamber, like I said, a lot of people just would have a square room, but you guys have seen the angles and the shape to the A chamber. There's a lot of serious knowledge and thought put in.
Yeah, somebody worked on that for sure.
And I've wanted to go to the old Memphis City Planner and see if they still have the original blueprints that you had to turn in, to build, get a permit, and see if it had anyone's name on there as far as the chamber goes. But yeah, I think Bill Cantrell is a big part of it. Sam. Because there were chambers at Royal Studio that aren't there anymore, but you can tell from the scaffolding they had a similar shape to the A chamber at Phillips. So very interesting stuff. But yeah, chambers, I mean, everyone's are different. When you start researching them, it's really fascinating.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. You have to do a little research and then change my garage into a chamber.
Yeah, do it.
It'll be my next COVID project.
Buddy Holly chamber was in the attic, so was Motown. So
there you go.
You can do it. And I think the Dwayne Eddy guitar stuff was they took a propane tank and they buried it, like a big propane tank. I read that in the Lee Hazelwood book, that they put a mic, opened it up, put a mic speaker in there, and welded it back and buried it. And that was the
wow.
all like Dwayne Eddy guitar stuff.
Oh, that's cool. Was there any sort of chamber at Sun? So I know it was like super small space, but there was the other.
The only thing he had at Sun was the front office. The building was originally a bakery, so the ceilings are tin ceilings, and he put the acoustics up in the A room. But the office, the front room, is mostly glass windows to the outside and looking. He had a glass kind of control room window looking into the tracking room and a tin ceiling. And it's very reverberant, and you can hear that in one of the first singles he released. It was by an artist called Johnny London. It was a saxophone instrument called Driving Slow, and that's the front room at Sun.
So he didn't
have the space for a chamber there, and in 50 the chambers weren't really a thing yet. But that's why by 57, when he had Phillips, he built 3 echo chambers and had a plate reverb, so he made sure he had his good sounding reverb.
Yeah, amazing.
And funny enough, so Charlie Rich recorded a hit at Sun called "Lonely Weekends," and that was recorded at Sun, but it was right when he had started to build Phillips, and he had a 3-track at Phillips. He only had a mono track at Sun, so he took the rhythm, the mono track over to Phillips, and he overdubbed the background singers. And people think it's hand claps, but they were taking 2 tape reels, the flanges, and smacking them together in the chamber. When you hear "Lonely Weekends," it's got a really dry vocal and rhythm track, and then just the reverbed out background vocals.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
That's the chamber at Phillips.
Man, incredible. Okay, we have a question in here from Mermillo, and he asks, how do you guys stand on the artist mixing engineer relationship considering loyalty? What are the pros and cons for working with the same engineer for every album?
It's an interesting question. I have always worked with whoever tracked the record to mix it. I was just talking about this with a friend of mine the other day. I don't know. I just, first of all, I like to be there for mixing. So I feel very odd sending my mixes out. So, and I just feel like if you're tracking, then you know what's there so much better than otherwise. I guess I understand, people wanting to work with a mixing engineer. I mean, Matt obviously does a lot of mixing for clients whose records he doesn't track. So, and there's certainly, I don't have anything against it, but for me as an artist, I also like to get things done, and I would rather not wait. So I'd rather finish the tracking and then the next day go right into mixing, which is what we did for my album with Matt, and what we did for these songs too. And that way, at the end of the however long your process is, at the end of the couple weeks you're making your record, you have a record. It's done. You don't have to wait for another process or send, files out or anything like that. That's my general opinion as an artist.
What I'd add to that is that Yes, I've done a lot of mixing for stuff I haven't tracked, and when I do that, I prefer if the artist can. No matter what, I like the artist to be there while we mix, because it's such mixing is such an emotional thing more than a technical thing, and especially if you weren't there for the tracking and all those decisions, there's a million things that are decided, or vibes, or colors, or sounds, or whatever you're going for, and then you send it to a mix guy, and he's gonna impart his thing or whatever he thinks your thing is on there. So to have the person in the room is so much more. I'm much more creative and engaged when there's someone there with me than getting email notes. I read every email like the person's mad at me, and it just never works.
They are.
So
notes are such a pain, man. Like the idea of like trying to, like if I'm in the room with Matt, I can say something like it doesn't feel right. And send an email that says it doesn't feel right. He's gonna be like, "What's this guy talking about?" You know what I mean? It's just a different situation.
Well, and that might happen in the middle of the mix versus him finishing a mix and then sending it to you, and now you got to double back. Yeah,
I can stop you in the middle of the mix and be like, "Oh no!" Like we were talking about this for this mix, right? The way the masqueraders are supposed to be, at least in my opinion, for this, was that they're like a feature. They're not. It's not like they might be labeled background vocals in the the track listing, but they are the chorus. I don't sing the chorus barely. You know what I mean? So like if we're mixing this and I don't hear them the way that I want to, then it's like that's an immediate, hit the stop button and be like, we got to, make sure that the vocals, the background vocals there are as present as the lead vocal,
Yeah, and I think there are certainly there's records I've engineered that they had someone else mix it for either a political reason or to have a bigger name or this or that on there, and it can be a bummer. It can also be really exciting to hear where someone else takes it. And as far as part of, I don't know if part of the loyalty question would be like, you're not going to work with the same artist. I would love to do more Eli Reed records. I also want Eli Reed to do the records he wants to do with certain, whether it's a certain person or not. And you can't be thinking like, oh, he's my artist, he's my client, I'm gonna get mad at him or be bummed out that he's going with someone else. It's before we worked together, I was a fan, and after we worked together, I'm an Eli fan. So I love to hear the stuff that other artists go to work with other people that I admire, and work with that and hear that stuff. So I think some people are very sensitive when a client doesn't come back, maybe directly or again or whatever. And I feel like you can't let that stuff bother you, because you're, at the end of the day, we're all fans of music. And you get to hear what Eli does with someone else. I fell in love with Eli because I heard the first record he did with this other person, and I thought that record was like perfect. And if I had done that, I would have ruined the shit out of it. So it's like, I don't know if that was part of the loyalty question he was asking, but you at the end of the day, you are here for the artist, and you should be excited for the artist, and no matter what they do. And you're not always the right person for the job or the right circumstance for the job. Obviously it's COVID right now, so we can't travel. There's a lot of people that you would maybe want to work with you that can't travel right now, or it doesn't make sense to, or anything, and you can't be upset or feel insecure about it. Now, if you did something wrong, or if we had a bad relationship thing, then I would want to solve that. But Eli and I are totally cool, and most artists are. I don't think I've ever left a record with a bad taste in my mouth, with the client. So
that's because you keep brass knuckles on the console. Everybody's afraid. It's your old trick.
I have to leave to go and pick up my children. I didn't know. I'm happy that we were having this wonderful, engaging conversation. But I just want to say that this was such a pleasure to be involved with this whole project, and just want to say before I go, thanks to both of you guys for involving me from the beginning.
Thanks for doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks for being a part of the live stream.
No problem, and don't hesitate to call, and I'll do it again.
Amazing.
He's going to talk to Darth Vader right now.
That's it. I have to get up and call Darth Vader to mix my next record.
He needs to get the instrumental mix in sync. I know what's going on.
That's it. All right.
Cool. All right. See you, Eli.
Bye.
See you soon. Cool. All right. Now the party can start.
Now we can talk about EQ setting, and compressor
Right.
setting.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so this is a cool question from username Snurdog, which best username on here, and right behind Darth Vader, of course. He asks, besides stealing Matt's clients, what's a good way to start building a client base?
Obviously doing good work, and I think and just being a people person. I mean, this is I think because of Puremix, because of YouTube, because of the way we are now, there's Instagram, there's all these like celebrity engineers or producers, or they're like what we're doing now, Puremix, where you're looking up to certain people, but at the end of the day, we are here for the client. If Eli wrote and said, I'm not digging the mix yet, I don't know what to change, I don't go back, well, I'm a Puremix pro, I got videos, so you don't know what you're talking about. I go, yes sir. I'll try and find what the problem is. So not having an ego, doing good work, and just people pick up on your enthusiasm and your initiative subconsciously. You don't have to. It's not something you wear on your chest, or you have a button that says "I worked my butt off." You just do it, and that stuff. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and I have a manager. Had one for a couple of years now, and she is amazing, and I'm so glad I have her. A lot of this stuff is still word of mouth. I think same thing with Andrew Shep. I think a lot of these people, you build up clients, you build up connections, you build up a roster of albums that people like, or sounds that people can refer to, and your name gets thrown around. And once that starts happening, as long as you keep doing good work and making people happy, and not having an ego, you'll continue to get called. When I first started in this business, I was at Sun Studio, which is a famous studio in Memphis, and when Sam Phillips started Sun, his motto was, we record anything, anywhere, anytime. It didn't matter. He was recording Howlin' Wolf at night, but he would go record someone's funeral or someone's birthday during the day, because it paid the bills, it got him better at what he was doing, and he was building up a client base. And I kept that motto when I took over as the engineer. So one day we would have T-Bone Burnett in recording John Mellencamp. The next day I was recording an Elvis impersonator from Germany, and I treated them exactly the same. A lot of people will bring in karaoke tracks and do Elvis stuff, or do this or that, or they weren't the most talented person, but you treat them all like they deserve to be there, because they do, and then you do the best job you can. And yeah. I think I luckily built up a lot of good karma, but also it helped grow patience and being warm and open and inviting to people. And then when you do have the sessions, like an Eli session that's extra special, it really means even more to you, because you're doing other things. So I think you just say yes to every gig that you think you can do good at, and then you do good at that gig, and don't have an ego or an attitude. I think a lot of sometimes people, when they deem the music isn't good enough for them, they don't treat the artist or they feel like they're wasting their own time, and it's recording someone is never wasting your own time. You're helping someone's dream come true, whether it's a major artist or major talent or not. And doing that, I think, goes a long way.
Yeah, Matt, that's incredible. Like that chunk right there just needs to be watched over and over again, because it's so important, and it just needs to be said over and over again. Honestly, that's such a great attitude. Thank you for that.
It's one of the best lessons I ever learned, and it's also, like I said, I think I really built up a lot of good karma, where now I'm a jerk, but I haven't come back on me yet.
Well, it was something that stood out right away too when we arrived for the shoot. Walking into Sam Phillips, it just felt like, one, we just kind of knew right away. Like you know, you walk in the library, you walk in the front door, and it's just like it feels very welcoming. The whole thing
Yeah.
felt welcoming, you know, and it just felt like a hang for 3 days. You know, it was really great. Yeah,
That means a lot to me because I don't know about you guys, but when I walk into like a antique store or like a you know Williams stuff with fragile stuff, I don't feel like I have my hands in my pockets. I want to get out of there fast because I don't
right.
want to break anything. I feel like I'm not allowed to touch anything like when you were a kid.
Mhm.
And when you go into a studio, it's a delicate balance of that. You want people to treat the studio with respect, because we put a lot of time and effort into these places, and you also want them to feel at home and feel like they can put their feet up on the counter or put a drink here, obviously not on the console, but
Mhm.
it's a delicate balance of that. And so when someone like you guys come in, you have a reverence for the place, but you also knew you could like put your camera there and you could put your bags down here and not feel like you're hurting anything, because if you're
Mm.
like that, you're not going to open up and be able to create.
Right, right. That was the thing too. Like, I mean, Eli was meeting some of the players for the first time on the day of the
Yeah,
session, and everybody was just having so much fun and hanging out and everything. It was just a really cool experience to see all that, and
yeah.
that there was no weird vibes or anything. It was just about having a good time. Let's see. We have another question here. Let's see. Sorry, I
What
cut
is
out for a sec. Did I cut you
what is Andrew Sheps's mix template?
off? Exactly. Can you email me Andrew Shep's mix template? Okay, so this one is from Mike C. And he says, have you gotten into all of these films, Muscle Shoals, Standing in the Shadows of Motown, Wrecking Crew, that were about a sound that is a combination of a place and a house band? I wonder what you think about how records are made now and whether that magic exists anymore. P.S. I've enjoyed some of the Zoom casts for Take Me to the River, which is featuring the featured Royal. Neat stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, I butchered that.
I love those documentaries. Any fans of music or just you guys, engineer studios, you should watch it because it's the pictures, the interviews. It's pretty amazing. There are those still. I mean, just bands alone. A lot of times back then there was a singer, not a band, and now we have more bands than singers that need a session group. But I've worked with the great producer Dave Cobb, and he uses a lot of the same players. Every record, you can kind of hear that in the record. I use a lot of the same players. That I don't feel like they have a total like a Willie Mitchell or Phil Spector sound, but you can little moments that connect to all these other things. And then there's great bands like I've worked with the Drive By Truckers, Jason Isbell's band. I remember I've worked on 2 records now with the Jason Isbell and his band, and we later went and backed up Josh Ritter on a record, and I engineered it. And it was Jason and his band, but it wasn't Jason's vocal or lyrics. And you still knew you still knew what band it was. It was like, if the Heartbreakers back up somebody, you automatically realize that sounds like the Heartbreakers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
People have these identities. And it translates to other artists and stuff. But yeah, I think that's totally still around. Studios don't have as much of a recognizable sound anymore on records because of how stuff is recorded now. When you record live in a room or you're using like the chamber a lot, those things go on records. When you're recording things individually and close miking and stuff, you don't oftentimes hear those unique things of the studio, but they're still in a lot of records. It's just not as popular. The trends now are different than before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the most amount of time that you've spent on a record?
Oh God, I have to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a band I worked with, Lucero. We just finished a new record, but the record before it's called Among the Ghosts, and it was a little over a year, but it was not a year. They tour a lot, so we would do 4 days here, come back 3 weeks later, do 4 days, come back later, do 5 days. So over the course of a year, we record an album, but it was probably maybe 3 weeks total of studio time. It just was in between tour dates and stuff. But
Right.
I'd probably say maybe one of the I think the first Jason Isbell record I worked on, something more than free, was I think 3 to 4 weeks from start to finish, tracking, mixing, and that's probably one of the longer ones.
Yeah.
Usually I spend about 7 days, is anywhere between 5 to 7 days. What we usually do, I like to track the whole record in 3 days. Usually have a day or two for overdubs and anything we want to go back and check, punch, and then I usually mix it in 2 days. Is how I usually book albums now.
Yeah. And when you don't have us asking you questions every 5 seconds, how long do you normally spend on a mix?
Oh, it depends if I think I'm doing good or if I'm terrible. I think I'm doing terrible. It depends on the artist and what we're going for and how I've recorded it and if they're with me and stuff. It can sometimes be an hour and a half, sometimes be 2 hours. Sometimes I'll work on it for a while and feel like I'm not doing good, so I'll come back to it with a better mindset. And sometimes I can spend all day on the song, just really playing with stuff and trying to find something unique for it. That was an interesting thing for me with this Puremix, was so much of what we do is unconscious, moving, and just, your brain's not going, I need to make this brighter. You're just going up and futzing with stuff. And so to start doing that, and you guys go, stop, what are you doing? And they go, I don't know.
Where am I?
What am I doing? Hold on, let me think a minute. And then you kind of have to think and do it. And that actually kind of, nothing against you guys, it kind of messed me up a little bit, I've never stopped and thought so much about moves, or music, and that doing that kind of not got me out of a rhythm, but got me overthinking things more, or maybe doing less than I would have done because I started thinking about it, or because
it breaks the flow.
But it was a great process to do that, and then kind of think about it, think it through and stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a common thing that that we see with these shoots. And the other thing is, at the end of it, people just feel completely just like kind of basically just exhausted, because you're doing a bunch of stuff where it's like you're just in the flow, but then you're kind of being pulled out of like a flow state, and then having to dissect all of that stuff with the other part of your brain that you're not really engaging with. It's like you're using both sides for the entire shoot, and then you walk out and you're just like drooling on yourself. So
yeah, and I couldn't I forgot to route the B3 correctly both times. It was hilarious.
We got it in there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's see, guys, if you got one more question, go ahead and enter it into the chat below. We had some people that are requesting to know the usernames of the top 10. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read those off real quick, and then maybe we'll do one more question and get out of here. Awesome. So our top 10 guys were Ben Charbo, Rick Mix. Oh, I don't know if I can say this one. Aurelian Garasis. These are all their Puremix usernames too. So DM Stubbs is in the top 3. Darth Vader, top 3. P. Brunkow, Otlib, Clown, who was in the top 3. Then we had W. Frank and V. Bakelha. So congratulations to all you guys.
And for those now joining, we were talking about this early on, but all the top 10 were all really great. I mean, it was a really hard decision to narrow some of these down. I was impressed and scared by all of your mixes.
It's going to be a pretty crazy thing to hear, see 200 different versions of a mix that you've done.
Well, just everyone did such a great job. And it just goes to show you with a good song and a great performance, like that translates. Even the ones that maybe had too much of a muddy low end or this or that, like it never took me out of the song. Everyone's mix, I was still into the performance, so it goes to show you when you track it, when you have those kind of players, and you record it, it's hard to mess it up after that.
Yeah. Well,
which I still manage to do quite often.
not on this, that's for sure. So one other thing, just before we get to this next question here, for, like you said, for anybody who's just tuning in, Matt Start to Finish is completely available on Puremix now. All of the episodes are up, and we are releasing the last of the interview series. We also did a ton of interviews while we were tracking the songs. We stole some people and went in the other room and interviewed them, and we have interviews up with Ken Coomer, with Eli, Paperboy Reed. We had the Masqueraders, the Hodges brothers, and we even had the honor of interviewing Jerry Phillips on there. So it's just amazing to hear stories from all of those guys and their careers.
Yeah, so if you guys aren't familiar, you should look all of them up. But Ken Coomer, the drummer, he was the drummer in Uncle Tupelo and Wilco for most of the records, and I've always been a fan of his music and him as a drummer. He's also a wonderful producer in his own right. He's had much bigger hits than I have. Oh, sorry, my dad's calling. And then Leroy and Charles Hodges, obviously, we mentioned in the show, but they played on all the Al Green, Otis Redding, and Peebles records. They've been on so many hit records. It's insane. They're part of the High Rhythm section. Jerry Phillips, of course, his dad was Sam Phillips, who created rock and roll. And Jerry, in his own right, is a wonderful performer, singer, songwriter. He produced John Prine's Pink Cadillac and bunch of other stuff. The Masqueraders were on Wilson Pickett songs, on Stax songs. They've been together for over 50 years. So just we were very lucky.
Very, yeah. It's a lot of talent in that building for those couple days there. It's pretty nuts. Matt, what was it? Actually, just like one more question for me. What was it like coming up as a recording engineer in Memphis in almost like this next generation of what the Memphis music scene was? I mean, like, how are things there now and while you were coming up? And
I was very lucky because I just by happenstance and luck, I did that demo at Sun when I was 14, and I met James Lott, who was the engineer there, and he offered an internship. You know, those things almost don't seem real in your mind, or a potential, or even thought of as a possibility. So I got to start interning at 16 and was there every day. I mean, I ate even the few days we weren't booked. I was in there cleaning or looking at how something was wired. I just was completely obsessed, and still am. It's really, I don't really have a personal life. Yeah. I love recording so much, and so getting to intern is a huge thing. You know, it's amazing now that we have YouTube. We didn't have YouTube then, but you know, it's so cool that you can, like, this start to series finish is amazing because we can watch all these great producers and engineers. I've watched them do little mix tricks and things and like that, but watching the tracking with Jakir King or Vance Powell and Andrew is so cool, and you really learn a lot in there. And interning is like that every day. You know, you get to really learn. I can't stress finding an internship, how valuable and important that is. You will learn more in a year than you ever could just practicing and doing stuff yourself. You know, it's amazing. But really getting to do that was really big, and Memphis still has all these incredible studios. So, you know, you're at Sun, which is kind of a 1950s time capsule way of recording all live, no booths. And down the street is Sam Phillips, where there's a couple booths, multiple rooms, and echo chambers, so you get to see what an echo chamber is like. You go to Ardent, which is a world-class facility with SSLs and Neves, and also it's where millions of hit records were recorded. And there's John Hampton was still alive at that time. My buddy Jeff Powell was the engineer there. So I got to be friends with Jeff and hear and see how he recorded. And we got to do projects together, so I learned a lot from him. You go to Willie Mitchell's studio, which was started in the 50s, but really its heyday was the 60s and 70s. And that's right when studios started to add burlap and insulation to deaden things, you know. So it's kind of like, well, where Sun is super live, Royal would be the next iteration before they got to multiple booths and you know, 24-track recording and stuff. So you kind of got every decade of music, and it's still there in Memphis. And the players, like you guys saw in this, we still have the Hodges. So to get to put a microphone on one of the Hodges is insane, you know. So I've been so, I hate the word blessed. Social media has ruin the word blessed, but I feel so fortunate, grateful, and lucky to have learned the way I did and to have come up in the way I have and to be in Memphis. It's just, we don't have a lot of the music business side. There aren't labels here. There aren't publishing here. There aren't a lot of management and stuff here, but we have the soul of music is here. The feel of music is here, which is, I think, the most important part, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't know anyone
Yeah.
who gets music to do the business side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
About the business side than the other side.
Man, that town it's just amazing too. I mean, before we did the shoot, I visited one other time, and it was almost like going on a pilgrimage. I came back and I was just so inspired by everything because there's so many places. I mean, you can do you can do a tour of Sun and everything, but just driving around and finding off spots to watch a set of music and just seeing like the caliber of musicians that are in this town that looks maybe even understated comparatively. It reminds me of a town that I grew up in that wasn't a huge town and everything, but when you actually see the caliber of players and you start understanding like their investment in songs and everything, it's just kind of a magical place. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I see in the chat, I see Charles Hallman's in here, and he's in Muscle Shoals, and that's the same thing. When I go to Muscle Shoals from Memphis, when you go to Muscle Shoals, it's like you got to pinch yourself. And then I see our buddy Andy Reid's in here, and he invited me to Detroit, and we got to go to Motown, which is very much like a Memphis thing too, but it's a different version of it. Even you in Ohio, there was King Records, you know, so there's these little, going back to kind of the documentary thing, there's these pockets of amazing music places in America that are, while they may not be the most up-to-date and the most this or that, they still maintain that thing. And if you can soak some of that up, it'll go a long way.
Yeah, definitely. Amazing. Okay. Oh, and our next question is from Charles Holman.
Oh, Lord.
So he says, yeah, perfect. Okay, so he says, hello from Muscle Shoals. I came in late, so I might have missed it, but I'm curious to know if you have any tricks that you employed to handle so many folks in the room for the Revivalists at Fame.
Okay. So the Revivalists we had, that was an interesting day. So the Revivalists wanted to record at Fame, and I think I can't remember how, there's a lot of them. There's 2 drummers, a bass player, multiple guitar players. The keyboard plays like 4 or 5 keyboards, a singer, and they all do harmonies. And they wanted to record everything live at Fame. They wanted to recreate some of their hits. Fame only has 32 channels of I/O. I think they had less working channels on the board than I/O. Multiple drum kits. So, and it's being filmed. So, you know, the film crew takes up a big part of it. I think I did the same thing I did on this shoot, like 2 or 3 mics on each drum kit. I put the drums side by side with a little baffle between the kick drums because, you know, your main enemy at that point is not bleed, it's phase issues with each other. The singer was in the booth. The keyboard player, we had to kind of know which signals he was going to do for each song, and we had to move patch or XLRs because we didn't have enough inputs to do all the keys at the same time. So it was a little bit of just hectic of each song figuring out, is it going to be B3 and piano or just piano or B3 Nord, this or that. You know, the good thing about Fame is it's an amazing sounding room. They designed those rooms, unlike most studios now, a lot of studios now I feel like are designed with looks and a certain thing in mind. Those rooms were designed to record everybody live in a room together, so they're balanced and stuff. And so Fame sounds so good. It was really, I got them all up. It was a little nerve-wracking, but you know, and also not using really nice mics on vocals and stuff, an SM7, a 58, things like that you're going to capture the source really well, and then you can maybe EQ if you need to, where the U87 might be too bright and pick up too much of the other stuff. So putting things off angles, you know, don't face a guitar and right the singer. If you just turn it 90 degrees and think of an amp almost as like a figure 8 deal, right? It's coming out the front and the back. The sides are kind of nulling a little bit. So just doing little things like that. And I learned a lot of that from Sun, because Sun is a much smaller room, no booths. And so you really got to use figure 8 mics, cardioid mics, and know where you're how to angle people and stuff. But big great trick. We've talked about it a bunch. Vance does it in his video. Is the Glenn Johns, not the mic technique, but it's called barn stalling. But put your drums where you usually put your drums, and put a little baffle on each side of the drums, and have the bass amp be parallel with the kick drum, and you put your guitar amp on the other side and parallel that. I usually like to have the bass over by the on the hi-hat side of the drum kit, because the floor tom is lower to the floor like an amp, so it's same frequency as the bass amp. So if you put the bass amp by the floor tom, sometimes you get woofy bass amp in your floor tom. So then put your guitar on the other side, parallel with the kick drum, little baffle. You'll get basically no bleed from the amps into the drums or the drums into the amps. It's amazing. And people like it set up like they're on a live show, so they feel comfortable with it. But you get an amazing amount of control bleed, and then your room mics catch up an amazing balance of drums and amps and stuff. So that goes a long way in recording in rooms.
Vance did that on the Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown start to finish series. It was completely mind blowing. It's like, why does this work?
It's one of the most simple things, and once you start doing it, you realize, why haven't I been doing this whole time?
Right.
But it really works incredibly well wherever you are, no matter where you are. It always works.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a baffle. It can be a hard shell guitar case, just some little bit that keeps them off each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
Charles knows. He's a great engineer. Asking me questions. I should ask him questions.
Amazing. All right. Well, we're going to let you get back to work.
All right. That doesn't sound fun, though.
Right. Can't thank you enough for doing this entire series and taking the time doing the live stream.
Thank you, guys. I mean, I'm going to say it again, those Puremix guys, they worked the hardest that day. And continually since then. I mean, editing and doing all this stuff. It's amazing what you guys do, and me getting to watch Vance and Andrew and Jakir and Daryl and all my buddies. But good to see what they do is amazing too. I've learned so much just from how everyone approaches things. It's incredible.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it's so much fun doing this with you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
So until the next time, hopefully we'll get to come and check out your new place very soon.
Check out the new digs.
Yeah, amazing. Cool. Well, good luck with everything, and thanks so much. Thank you everybody who entered the contest.
Thank you all.
Yeah, and go check out those interviews too, as a part of the series. So those are incredible things. All right.